newest show to hit Facebook Live, where we talk about trending news, business, technology, innovation, social impact, charities, and more. We'll be bringing on celebrities, influencers, athletes, and politicians, asking them, how are you leaving normal behind? And we want this channel to be an epicenter of content that spans Generation Z, Millennials, Gen X, and Baby Boomers, where they can come together and we can all make a difference. Call in and really engage as we discuss trending topics of today that will have an effect on tomorrow. What's good, Facebook and YouTube Live? We are here, guys, for episode 32 of LNB TV. I just got back from an amazing weekend in California, speaking at the Youngry Summit. Met some incredible people here, but we have a great show for you planned. I got my brother on, so that's one. So he's over here. So guys, on this show, we want to do something a little bit different. So we want to do more of a roundtable discussion. It will be so epic if you guys are commenting and being engaged during our live feed. And both my brother and myself went to some amazing events this weekend. You know, I just came back from California, like I said. He crushed it at the Synergy Convention in New York City. And we want to go through what are some things that we learned, give you guys some updates that are happening within Leave Normal Behind. And then as entrepreneurs, we want to share different growing pains, like how we're growing our business, what are we going through, and starting to really objectively pull some information and value that hopefully you guys that are watching that, you know, running your own business or have your own brand or want to have your own business or brand, you guys can learn from what we're going through. It's all great things, guys. You know, whenever you're looking at the health of a business, it's just like different stages. So as long as you maintain composure, you know what you're doing, where you're at, understanding your boundaries and limits, man, that's a really big strength. So Eric, thank you so much for coming on, bro. I appreciate you. And I kind of want you to kick it off, bro. You know, guide us into the show. I'm actually gonna send a quick Instagram.
Cool. Let's
guide us into the show, bro.
So guys, I am extremely happy to be on LNB TV tonight. I was at the Synergy Global Forum this past weekend where I got to connect with some amazing entrepreneurs. We took our LNB producer, Joan, who's feeling a little under the weather tonight, so shout out Joan. She's not with us today, but she's here in spirit, but always she comes through planning our entire show. But to just start off, the people that I was able to hear speak at the forum, of the likes of Guy Kawasaki, Gary Vaynerchuk, Sir Richard Branson, Simon Sinek, Malcolm Gladwell, all these great entrepreneurs I was able to hear speak and have them share their experiences and their stories and their different teaching points. And I was so humbled and I was so grateful for them to be able to give their time and especially their energy, because these guys are getting pulled in so many different directions. But what I wanted to start on today and talk about, where I was able to pick up where maybe some other entrepreneurs did not pick up during the event, is that these speakers, in a way, were trying to teach entrepreneurship, and it irked me a little bit, because I don't believe entrepreneurship has one direct path or one distinct definition. I don't believe you can teach entrepreneurship. I think you can share experiences in your entrepreneurial journey. And I think that's what kind of gets entrepreneurs caught up too much. They're just like, I'm trying to be an entrepreneur. I'm trying to be an entrepreneur. I'm doing exactly what they say. I'm doing exactly what they say. But what they forget is they're doing what someone else is doing, even if it is Sir Richard Branson or Simon Sinek or these guys. You can take bits and pieces from them and apply it to yours, but it's really ultimately creating your own experience and building off of that. All they've done is really create the path for entrepreneurs to know that this game is possible, but it's not gonna happen the way that it happened for them. So for me, what I would like to hear from you, Rob, after now speaking at a Youngry Summit, is how are you able to share your experiences so authentically doing the weekly live show with entrepreneurs and letting them know that, you know, it's okay if it doesn't happen the way that it happened for you or I, or for someone who's already been successful. What do you think is the key to teaching entrepreneurship or sharing?
So yeah, I think you made some good points, and I want to play devil advocate to some of your points.
Let's do it.
And I think that there's certain elements of entrepreneurship that you can teach, right? Because you can educate people, you know. So to say that entrepreneurship can't be taught, I wouldn't necessarily agree. I think the X factor that makes like once in a generation entrepreneurs that don't become business owners, they actually become influencers or thought leaders. I think that's something that can't be taught. I think that that's something that comes more internally. But like learning basic marketing skills, sales skills, building a team, creating content, and other elements of entrepreneurship, I do think that you can teach those things. But I acknowledge what you're saying in terms of you can't teach the whole thing. I think when you're learning or listening to people, and as a speaker myself, you do want to share like objective truths, right? So in Sir Richard Branson's story, or Gary Vaynerchuk, Simon Sinek, granted, you can't take everything that they say because you're not Gary Vaynerchuk, you're not Sir Richard Branson. You're at a different time, at a different age, with different assets, different resources. You look different. But you can draw objective truths. So that's where I just wanted to add a little bit of caveat to what you were saying, because I do think that you can teach some of those elements, and by entrepreneurs sharing their experiences, only a certain amount of people, right, end up ever actually executing. That's just like how the world goes. People have so much information. Everyone knows what to do. That's a fact. Everyone knows what to do already. And right, if you were to take out anybody on the side of the street and say, how do you live a happy life? How do you be successful? How do you get fit? You go up to the fattest dude that you see in New York City and you ask him, how do you get healthy? I bet you he knows how to be healthy. It's, is he doing the things to be healthy? That's the difference. And sharing your experiences can give you that insight, but at the end of the day, you have to do it yourself. And that's where people get caught up, I believe, is this execution portion of it, the follow through. And that's something I'm really looking forward to talking to on this show as well. I'm actually pulling my phone out unless you can have the live screen on your laptop. Yeah. Guys, I don't have my laptop on this show because I literally left California around like 6 a.m., 2 flights, landed over here around 7 from JFK, and then jetted over from JFK to Newark in a taxi. I went to New York Penn and then came here. So we appreciate you guys staying involved. The way that this show is going to be best is we really need this to be question focused, over-indexed on you guys engaging, so you can really draw from the experiences of myself and Eric. Who are some people that we have on so far?
We have Encore. He just says, he has a really cool, interesting comment. He goes, I have a distinct definition of entrepreneurship that I'm confident you will agree on. I believe that entrepreneur is someone who believes there is a better way to do something and has the audacity to actually go out there and do it. I think that's really what you were speaking to on the real internal drive to be able to see a problem and say, I'm going to go out and solve that. I agree that is a definition of entrepreneurship, but more so the teachings of it. And I agree with Rob on how you can teach the marketing skills, you can teach the content creation, you can teach the sales and all of those. I don't want to say soft skills, sharp skills, however you want to put it. But that internal drive to actually go and take action on those. Someone could be sitting down and listening to learn how to be efficient in sales and how to follow up. But if they don't have that intrinsic desire to do something with it, then I don't really see a value in teaching, rather than I'm just going to go show you and share my experiences. And I think really what gets entrepreneurs up and going, and Rob was, he just had come back from his Youngry Summit where he tells us a story where there was a salesman who could not walk into the house before making 60 phone calls, and we're going to go more in depth into this later in the show, but he would not walk into the house until finishing 60 sales calls because he knew if he did not finish, there would be a massive backlog in their business and that he wouldn't probably be able to enjoy the event as much. He would have let his team down and there would have just been too much to deal with on Monday that he said, hey, let me just take the extra hour or two to make these phone calls. Maybe I'll miss a little bit of the event, but I know it's gonna be better off for me in the end. And I think that's entrepreneurship, is the actually implementation of these hard skills. So Rob, now coming, actually living that and hearing about backlogs, what do you think stops entrepreneurs from really knowing what the solutions are and then having that internal motivation to be able to go and attack those things?
Yeah, I think it's honestly just getting shit done. It's just getting shit done and having the fucking guts to do it. And having personal accountability to make it happen. If you can't hold yourself accountable, other people can't hold you accountable. And I love that Ankur's on here. Ankur's an incredible entrepreneur. He's built multiple successful businesses. I'm sure many of you guys have heard about Shreds. They did nearly 100 million in revenue. And I spent some time with Ankur this weekend as a co-founder of Young Greed. And he taught me so much about systems and being a guy that can look at a $100 million business and how do you reverse engineer the steps necessary to do so. And to be honest, it comes from in here. This is the difference between $100,000, $1 million, $10 million, or $1 billion, right? I was talking with Ankur and one of the guys there, and somebody said to Ankur, yeah, isn't it hard to answer all those emails? And Ankur literally looked at me and goes, yeah, bro. Don't you want to make $100 million? So that's what I think. I just think people don't have it. I don't think there's an excuse for it. If you can't do the action, well, then you should just quit. Go get a job. That's how I feel. Because no system works if the people in the system don't work. And no system will make your people work. As a leader, I need to develop more systems, which will go into the growing pains of Leave Normal Behind. And where we're learning, guys, this is such a great journey that you guys get to watch as we really have a massive effect on the world. And there's two things, right? You have a movement element of it, that's content, but you also need the foundation in your business to be the backbone for people to learn and connect and make money, because no broke person can really help other people. That's just a fact. You can't really help others until you truly help yourself first.
Ankur, I really got myself in a bind, but I'm excited to take this on. So Ankur says, question for Eric. Why do you think attendees buy tickets and attend expos/conventions and summits? I'm totally picking on you for saying that you can't teach someone how to leave normal behind, aka be an entrepreneur. So
Ankur's gonna come in, bro. He's in.
I'm ready for it.
Down.
I'm so ready for it. And I think this is kind of where maybe Rob and I differ as people. I'm not much of a teacher. I don't give a fuck to teach you because I think people will act like they're listening, but they're really not. Maybe I'm not talking to the right people. That's a different story. However, I much rather fucking show you rather than tell you or teach you how to entrepreneur or how to leave normal behind. And that's, for me, the way that I go about my teaching. So maybe it's a different form of it, but less verbal and more action. So I do see your point, and I think leave normal behind and to be able to teach something, again, it comes down to that internal will to not want to be normal. And that's why we have the show, is to be able to show what not normal things are happening around the world, give the not normal perspective, the leave normal behind perspective, and how to deal with those things and how I would actually deal with them on a day-to-day basis. But please, let's keep this conversation going. Ankur, if you have more questions, if the audience has more questions, let's keep it up, because I'm sure this is a topic that is on people's mind and want to have a better understanding of it. And again, I don't believe there is one definition, because I believe we all have our own. I'm going to connect with a specific way of leaving normal behind, and that's the beauty of it, because you're going to connect with it in maybe a little bit of a different way, and I want you to make your own definition of it. I don't want you to have my definition of it, because I want you to be your own leader. I'm not trying to create Eric Fajardo fans or followers. I want you to be able to create the image that you want to be and look up to that image, and to leave normal behind to be that image. So that's where I really think that, you know, showing rather than teaching is, you know, my way of showing people how to leave normal behind. And I guess Rob's would be a little bit
laughing.
more.
I'm just laughing because Ankur's a funny dude. He's just texting me. It's just like, just because he makes a good point, but I just want to reframe too. Ankur's question is, why do entrepreneurs attend summits in the first place? Not so much of how they can leave normal behind.
I really don't have that answer.
Why did you attend the Synergy convention?
I attended because I had the opportunity of a lifetime. It was kind of gifted to me, so it was also timing. But then I wanted to be, for me, when I see people online, for instance, I wanted to go see Gary Vee speak. I just wanted to see his aura. I wanted to see how tall he was. I wanted to hear what his voice sounded like from behind the camera. I think it just makes him more real. I think the same thing goes when you see a celebrity.
Now that Gary Vee is more real, Sir Richard Branson is reachable, you know that he's a human. What does that do for you?
What does it do for me? I haven't thought about it much or have had the time to really delve deep into what it would do. I guess it would make what we're doing with Leave Normal Behind more real, in the sense that there's people going up on stage like Gary Vee, cursing in front of people, telling them that they're normal in their own right. So it kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Reaffirms what we're doing with Leave Normal Behind. So that wasn't really my intention or like what it does for me. Now that I went, this is what would be my analysis.
I think you're on with Sarah. So guys, this is something too, I'm doing this with my brother. This is something I think is very important, is a Socratic method, right? The quality of your questions really give you a direct proportion to the quality of your answer, right? And I think this is a great opportunity. This is literally the first time I'm seeing Eric after coming from the Synergy, California. And this is the process of team members talking and finding out what went down. And one of the things that I would ask you, Eric, again is, and I don't want to speak for you, and it's, so you're going to the event to see that these people are real, and I guess I will speak for you. It's this fact that you now can duplicate this frequency of how this person moves, how their mannerisms are, what they're talking about, and how you can start to emulate these people. So I believe emulating others that you admire, that are doing the things that you want to do, is the best and most fast way to start growing. And that's why you go to the events. That's why you hang out with the speakers. That's why you read the books, because you need to figure out does their mojo start mixing in with your mojo? And how do you start creating all the good things from all the people that you know to start developing your own secret sauce? You know, so I think that's the most important thing when it comes to events.
We have a good question from Jake Nielsen. He goes, Rob and Eric, getting a little weird here, but that's what I'm about. I appreciate the honesty. Do you think entrepreneurs are similar to superheroes, given a gift but little guidance until they find their mentors that help them harness their abilities and visualize their capabilities?
Cool. What do you think?
I was asking you. I don't have an opinion just yet.
Sweet. So Summer just wrote, can I respond to Jake? I think it's interesting that you asked that. In my honest opinion, entrepreneurs are not superheroes. We are all entrepreneurs and tradesmen by nature, and that was all changed, and the idea of a working man was shifted during the Industrial Revolution. We then adopted the 9-to-5 lifestyle as a norm, but it actually goes against the way that we're wired. I agree with Summer a lot on this. Also, the way that our public school system is set up is so regimented with very similar, if you go back to the Industrial Revolution, when we have bells in between class periods, this starts to build us for the workforce. Now though, now that we're in this technological age, millennials and Gen Z, we're starting to see a lot of big differences happening. Just to talk to Summers, and I'm going to discuss what I believe with Jake's, but just so you guys have some general information about like the overall economy, You know, the average job longevity used to be around like 30 to 40 years. Now most millennials are only working in a certain place for 2 to 4 years. And the way that business works needs to start shifting, and it is. You know, you're starting to see more people working remotely. You're starting to see more people starting to take trips. Companies are developing better benefit packages that include yoga and meditation and wellness retreats. And so I definitely want to highlight what Summer had said there, that naturally I do believe that we're hardwired to be entrepreneurs because I believe everyone's an artist. I believe deep down everyone has an artistic genius. Everyone has their own specific set of skills, their own passion and purpose. And that combination packaged up is what you can use to turn into a business as an entrepreneur. So I do believe that we are all born artists. I think we are all born creators. That's what separates us from animals, is that we have the ability to create and design, and that's our unique gift. What I like about what Jake is saying, you know, are they superheroes where they kind of need guidance? Yes and no, right? Because I believe good entrepreneurs figure shit out themselves. You are resourceful, right? You're not waiting for somebody to say, guide me, help me, where's my mentor?
Right.
And this is something that I talked about at the Youngry Summit. I've said this on LNB TV before. Everyone thinks it's like, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Mm-hmm. And that's not true. That's half true. Because who you want to know does not want to know you unless you know what you know. I met some incredible people this weekend. Taylor Swift's former managers, CNBC, disruptors, investors. People have done millions and millions of dollars. And at the end of the day, all of these people boil down to the same thing. You just have to execute. Mm-hmm. And meeting all of those people, they would not want to know me unless I had been putting in the last 3 years, reading books, creating content, learning. Because now when you're put into the opportunity to talk with these people, you lose. You lose your opportunity. So who you want to know doesn't want to know you because you don't know enough. So this idea of like being a superhero and needing guidance, yes, we all need guidance, but learn how to guide yourself. Learn how to take care of yourself. That's the most important thing.
I think we can even go into that a little bit deeper, like you were saying, how it's really that inside will. We're all artists. We all have the ability to create. And when you were speaking at the Youngry Summit, you were talking about incompetent competence, unconscious competence. Maybe just talk about a little bit of that, because it's really just the unknowing that it's actually there for these entrepreneurs, that they could actually tap into this higher genius. But it's that unconsciousness that is clouded by the naysayers, your parents, the media, that you can't actually find your inner genius. So I think it would be good just to touch a little bit on how you were able to transfer, you know, that knowing, or being able to dissect, you know, where their blind spots are as entrepreneurs to be able to tap this inner genius.
Cool. So, hey, so what I talked about at the Youngry Summit in California was the 4 stages of human development that I learned from a mentor, advisor, friend, genius, Jonathan Emmerett. You have to check him out. Thought Mechanics. This guy's just on another level. But something that he relayed to me that it's been profound information is that human development takes 4 stages. The first stage is unconscious incompetence. This is where we don't know what we don't know. We're unaware of our blind spots. You know somebody's unconsciously incompetent when they're being very stubborn. They can't shift what they think because they don't know what else to think. This is the person that you're building an online business, you're trying to tell them that that Facebook exists and Facebook's important, and they're still telling you to do flyers because they just are being stubborn. They don't know what they don't know. When somebody's unconsciously incompetent, they're doing the best that they can. You can't expect them to do more than their comfort zone because they have these blind spots. And in some areas, we're all unconsciously incompetent. In all areas, you know, not all areas, in some areas, we each have a little bit of that within us. The next stage, where most tens of millions of people reside, and this is where I believe, and when I talked on stage, this is where normal resides, is being consciously incompetent. Consciously incompetent. This is when we are aware of our incompetencies. This is when we are aware that we could just be doing a little bit more. Just a little bit more than we're doing. And it creates this subtle, constant uncomfortability that's this perpetual energy within us. And this is where leaving normal behind is when we move from being consciously incompetent to being consciously competent. That is where leaving normal behind happens. When you move from being consciously incompetent to becoming consciously competent. And conscious competence looks like when you are aware and in control of where you are becoming more competent. You want to be healthier, right? I want to be healthier. I want to stay flexible. So I started stretching for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, because I know that I want to stretch for 20 minutes. Let me start becoming more consciously competent by stretching for 2 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the morning, a little bit during the day. This is when you're reading the book on purpose because you acknowledge you don't know enough about marketing, you acknowledge that you don't know enough about human management, and you pick up How to Win Friends and Influence People, and you start reading a chapter every day on purpose. This is where you're becoming consciously competent. And guys, this isn't a revenue, right? Conscious competence is around, 4 figures to 7 figures, maybe even 8 figures, right? Because money doesn't make you a world-class person. You can be making a lot of money, but still be very consciously incompetent on the fact that you're a dickhead, you're stubborn, you don't have friends, you don't know how to treat people, but you're very competent in your business. So you have to look at what specifically you're talking about. The 4th stage, and this is where we all strive to be, and this is where the master or genius lives. This is where Jonathan Amarat lives and other masters like him, is when you are unconsciously competent. You are unconsciously competent. Who you are and what you do is all the things that you need to be doing. It's full flow. One of the most profound quotes that Jonathan shared with me is, "The master does nothing, yet leaves nothing undone." The master does nothing, yet leaves nothing undone. And that's unconscious competence. It's having this ability to wake up and have your life so streamlined, and your identity and your habits are so streamlined that your life in itself becomes an unconscious flow of competency. So that is where people go through the transition of leaving normal behind, is moving out of that conscious incompetence and moving towards conscious competence. When people are unconsciously incompetent, they need a near-death experience or something very traumatic or a moment of overwhelming bliss that all of a sudden breaks down their fragmentation of reality and warps them so much into the present that now they become consciously incompetent, right? This is where the person had their life flash before their eyes, and then they're like, I have not been putting enough time into my family. Before they almost died, they were too unconsciously incompetent to see their blind spots to even start becoming consciously incompetent to know how to help themselves. Right.
And I think that's such a great transition into how millennials are labeled lazy, because we've done a very, very good job at making our lifestyle our work. And that idea of being consciously competent, where we are doing everything, where we do nothing but get everything done. So I think that was really great. I think we're at a great great time in the show where we want to get into the comments. I really appreciate everyone from being here. What we're going to be covering in the next 10 to 15 more minutes is a little bit deeper into backlogs and different systems that you could put into place to make sure that those don't occur, We're going to be going over business pains, specifically what we're dealing with at Leave Normal Behind and what we're doing to overcome them. And then we're also going to wrap it up talking about Saudi Arabia and their new citizen. So we got a lot more to cover, but let's dive right into backlogs. This is something that Rob and I were talking about right before the show, really debriefing us on how are you able to create a perfect system where after one task is passed on, that it is able to keep getting pushed down the pipeline so that the person who had previously passed it on can continue moving forward in their work, and to allow the system to fully be automated, making sure that everyone's getting their job done. So what does it look like to have the system? What are some types of systems? Specifically, we're gonna really talk about sales and outreach and how to be able to really get people through a system, how to gather a lot of data. This is great for market research and when you're entering a new market. And then finally on how to really keep it going. So something for us at Leave Normal Behind, we have about 120 members currently right now since April 2017. Things have been going really amazing. We've had our first event. We've been sending out merchandise. However, there's so much knowledge to be taken away from a community of purpose-driven people who are becoming the best version of themselves by creating things that matter. They're all growing every single day, working on their business and themselves, that we are creating better systems to extract this knowledge from them to better help them move forward as entrepreneurs, as well as guide them in the right direction to keep moving forward so that they're not having, well, for us, it will backlog us. And this is where the backlog comes, is when we're not gathering that information from our people, we cannot move Leave Normal Behind forward as a community because our people are our business. If we don't have a tap on what they're doing, where they're struggling, what their finances are, what their expenses are, we can't give them the right information. What I've been saying lately, and I've taken it a little bit from Rob, is that life is about options and choices. However, that's just the very surface of it. We like doing this idea of going in a little bit deeper. Life's about options and choices. However, if you don't know the truths about your options, then you simply can't make the right choice. So for us, how are we going to make the right choices to extend Leave Normal Behind forward, to be able to gather the right data and information from our members, not to create a backlog? Mm-hmm. So now that we have that all on the table, so we all know what we're talking about now, something that we're going to now dive deeper into is what is the specific system of reaching out to members and gathering data, and what is a backlog? And Rob's going to take us through really the step-by-steps.
Sweet. So, guys, a backlog, and when it comes to systems and just growth in general, you know, a lot of people see what we're doing at Leave Normal Behind. We have this organic secret sauce. We have an amazing network of people. And what entrepreneurs don't realize is that growing too fast can crush you just as much as growing too slow can crush you. Growing too fast can crush you as much as growing slow can crush you. Because if you grow too fast and you don't have the systems in place, you're gonna fall. It's gonna collapse, right? If you have one black dot, we have one black marble out of 10. The other 9 marbles are white. We 10x it. And now all of a sudden I have 10 black marbles out of 100. 10x it again. Now I have 100 black marbles out of 1,000. 10x it again. Now I have 1,000 black marbles out of 10,000. And these black marbles represent inefficiencies. They represent blind spots. They represent placed backlogs. You know, so, and when you have too many of these black marbles, that's how you get too big and you collapse. Because people don't realize that throwing millions of dollars on something, throwing any amount of money on something, just multiplies more of what's already there. So as an entrepreneur, everyone's like, go raise money, go raise money. Fuck that. Build a business that works and then raise money. Go get growth capital. Find out how to bootstrap. Find out how to be resourceful and build the system that's working and making revenue so that now you can go to an investor with something that works. And we're saying, we want to hire more people for our studio. Right now we have 3 people on Leave Normal behind. Me, Eric, and Joan. We want to hire another designer, some more videographers, XYZ. All of these conversations can happen once we're able to optimize all the things that we're going through right now. So I want to walk you guys through just what a backlog is and how they happen. And I hope that you guys engage in the comments here, because this is really profound information that I was able to take from some of my friends and clients over in Cali that are running an incredible solar company called Da Vinci Energy. They've done over $10 million in 10 months. They're worth $41 million right now. And these guys are 23 years old, 23, 22, 21. And their system works. Because I want to use this example here. So say we have 4 little boxes, 4 imaginary boxes like this, right? And these 4 boxes are essentially just 4 different steps in a system. I want to do something that everyone is doing here is, this process of outreach or filtering inbound leads, right? So say the first person here is this outreach person. This person is sending out messages to find people that are interested in your business. After 100 people, say 4 people respond and they're interested. Now this person needs to gather the right information to send them to an account manager. The account manager then has all the information on this outbound or inbound lead for the account manager to start educating them on their products and their service. Then, once the deal is closed, the account manager might label them off to like a project manager that's now developing how they're gonna build their business. And then say the 4th step, let's, for this formula's sake, have it be like some type of consultancy or optimization. Okay, so we have 4 things: the outbound, the account manager, the project manager, and the optimizer. Okay, so this out guy that's dealing with the inbound leads as well, say he has to have all of these people fill in a form. But say he's moving too fast, he's inefficient, this person's a really hot lead, and he pushes them over to an account manager. Now the account manager is working with them, but now all of a sudden they don't have the form that they needed. So the account manager goes back to the first person and says, hey, I need that piece of paper. So now the account manager, who's already passed that lead on to the next person and has started looking at the next lead, now is receiving from the next person in the cog a backlog, because in the process it went like this, and now it's going back, while this guy is already bringing something in. Now, the guy that was already bringing something in has to stop what he's doing to fix the problem that he made, to resend it back here, while he also is now starting to get backlogged on the front door. This is like a snake effect, right? This is how traffic works in the same way. When you're driving on the highway, we've all seen this. This is what happens in LA. They don't have enough lanes. They have too many cars. So what ends up happening is, even if there's no accident, even if just by the fact of the volume of cars, if we have 2 cars here, there's 2 big trucks, and they're driving like this, just for this, thank you, and here's the lanes, if these 2 people slow down the flow of traffic, even just like this, we've all done it, guys. Have you ever come to like a full stop on the highway, and then all of a sudden, you just start going full speed again, and you're just thinking like, how did I just come to a full stop and then just start driving? And it's because of snake effect. So what happens is, these guys are moving forward, then they take a step back, then all the other cars start taking a step back, and then when you have a lot of volume, this can go on, and it's like a snake. It can go on for hours, depending on the volume of traffic. Just this little hiccup. This could be somebody like switching a lane that really just stalls the people moving forward. Right. But I want to use this metaphor, this image, because business is the same way. And how often in your business and in your systems are things getting moved forward to just be moved back, to then be moved forward again? Mm-hmm. So the process of a backlog and reducing these backlogs is each person in the system, and this is why we go through before, The system can only hold what needs to be done accountable. The people in the system have to hold themselves accountable to do what they need to do in the system. The guy that's collecting the outbound leads needs to send the messages, gather the information, put it on a form, and then he's done or she's done. They pass it over to the account manager. The account manager is doing a certain set of tasks until they're done to take that package, move it to the third, the project manager. Now the project manager is able to reverse engineer every step that needs to happen, create the plan. If the project manager at this point didn't have enough information from the account manager, guys, this one even gets worse. We were just talking about the first person messing up. If the account manager messes up and then the project manager has to go back to the account manager, that just caused a backlog from this end of the equation while the backlog is still coming from the other end of the equation. And this is how startups fail. It's because they don't set up the systems to reduce backlogs. You need to have this forward momentum that's seamless. It's fluid like water. And it's okay if you don't, because we don't have all of our systems in place yet. And this is why we're talking about it on the show. And we shouldn't, right? Because you have to realize where your limits and boundaries are and what you need to learn to get better, guys. It's a constant process of feedback and asking questions of like, what's going on? What can be better? What can we do right now?
Amazing. So let's hop into the comments real quick. Daniel says predictable revenue model, very similar to a predictable revenue model with understanding it's a numbers game. If you send out 100 messages and you get 10 that get on the phone and then 1 convert, you'll probably be able to predict your next month if you maybe take 200 calls on. So then maybe 20 will close, you'll predict 2 sales. Very, very similar. And then Encore comes out with another question. He goes, Eric, how does college prepare people to manage backlog situations? So for the people who know me, I am still in college. I'm in my last year at NJIT. And it's great that you asked me this question because my professor would be so happy, so happy. So I'm a business major with a concentration in management and a minor in innovation and entrepreneurship. So what I'm learning right now in my project management class on how to minimize backlogs is what are the mitigation strategies to backlogs? How are you able to predict the backlog? And if it were to occur, how do you solve it? So for instance, if there's too many front end leads, say we're getting too many people through the front door and the people in the middle are backlogged because there needs to be, let's say, some documents filed to pass on to the next day. If you could predict that and then predict the time as well, that would make that project last longer. It's not solving the issue, but it's actually just managing the backlog better. So when they do occur, it's not like, hey, what the hell are we gonna do right now and how are we able to sustain our business forward? So really the mitigation strategy over time after doing it a whole bunch will allow you to predict these these backlogs and then be able to then solve them at a quicker and more rapid pace. And then as you're testing, just like any scientist, when you have a hypothesis, when you have a hypothesis, the next thing you need to go do is test. And based on your test, you're either reanalyzing or rewording your hypothesis or finding more research until that test comes back successful. And then once that test comes back successful, you move on to the next thing. And then you test it, retest, and retest. So everything's not going to be perfect off the get. Not one system is going to have no bugs in it and is going to work perfectly the first time. And I think that as entrepreneurs, that's what you need to be able to do, is be adaptable and then also have those mitigation strategies. So that's how college, for myself at least, is really teaching me these mitigation strategies. What is a mitigation strategy? The types, how severe are they? And then also the time allotted to when that project is now extended. So talked about backlogs. I think we really gave
I do want to, before we go in, because I know we have 10 minutes, and guys, what we're going to end with is, man, like just being so open and honest. We've just have such an incredible amount of people in our network that are giving us such new information, and we want you guys to see what it looks like to adapt real time. So up until this point, LNB TV has been very current events focused. We want to maintain the current events because most of society is undereducated, underinformed, and they're receiving media in a way that's very grotesquely, diabolically biased. And that's just not going to work. Millennials, most of us are moderates. 50% of 18 to 29-year-olds didn't vote. That's tens of millions of people that are not even participating. That's not going to happen long term. Donald Trump's here for 4 to 8 years. What this more so shows is that millennials are moderate. We like a little bit of this. We like a little bit of this. We can see what these people are saying. We can see what these people are saying. One of the best things about millennials and Generation Z and progressive Gen X, people with no ego, people with have a high emotional intelligence, is you can see things from multiple perspectives. So the next 8-9 minutes is we want to talk about a current event in a leave normal behind way. You know, just being honest again too. Last week, we're talking with a great friend of ours named Blake, Hollywood director, venture capitalist, very connected guy. 2 advisors on his company is the founder of Grand Theft Auto and the founder of Call of Duty. Eric and myself were in dinner with them. They're talking about, you know, millions. Should we raise millions for the show? Should we not? What type of show do we need? And a great point and some great insight that we received is that this show is about leaving normal behind and being very guest focused like we have been, and also over indexing on sharing a leave normal behind perspective of what's going on through important topics and not so much the current events and giving like, hey, here's the current events that are going on. As we continue to grow the show, we're going to continue to bring people who are not normal, they're leaving normal behind. But when there's certain topics that need to be discussed, like one that we're going to talk about today, we're going to share our leave normal behind perspective so that you guys are still able to understand the most important current events, right? Like what's going on in North Korea, what just recently happened in Saudi Arabia, which I want to get into. But because I know that this Saudi Arabian conversation is going to be a little bit of a rant, not a rant, it's going to be a
controlled education.
A controlled education, just like what's good. I want you guys who are watching,
please,
if you're dealing with any backlogs, like let's see what your system is right now. Let's work through that. If the guys in the back can put up the live call-in number, I hope that somebody that's watching will call in and say, hey, here's something that I've been dealing with, and here's a backlog that I've been working on. How do I get through it? You know, so we have incredible people on here. Rick's an amazing guy. You guys need to check out what he's doing. Former Taylor Swift manager. This guy's crushing it. Rick, you are also a badass. Peter, nice to see you here again, bro. I'm so appreciative of you. Daniel Pascar, nice to see you. We got some good LNB members here, of course. And Ankur coming through with the questions all live show. Couldn't do it without you, bro. So I'm going to let this go. If somebody calls in, we'll stop and discuss it. But I really want to go into just vaguely, what do we got here? We got about
6 or so minutes.
6 or so minutes. Guys, we want to be out of here at 10 o'clock. So recently, for those of you that don't know, Saudi Arabia became the first country ever to grant citizenship to a robot named Sophia. Sophia is, has had millions of dollars invested into her technology. She is like one of the most realistic robots that's ever been created. She can express emotion, happy, sad, frustrated. She has AI technology built into her brain. She can engage in conversation, take orders, and essentially is a very advanced input-output system. She was recently featured at the Future Investments Initiative in Saudi Arabia, where essentially all of these very, very rich people, mostly men, sat in a room and are looking at the new technology in the world while this robot whores herself out to ask for an investment. If you guys watch this 5-minute video, it is disgusting. It's disgusting because, for a lot of reasons. And these guys didn't even want it to be this disgusting, which is why we have to talk about it, because men can be so oblivious. And male privilege is a pervasive throughout the world, and that's normal, right? And what this robot would do is they had a very scripted conversation where the robot was saying, yeah, and if you want to be in the future, meet me in the back of the room and invest in me, which really pissed me off because I'm like, that's just ridiculous. The more gross thing is that on stage, the guy goes, oh, and we just got word that Sophia is now a citizen of Saudi Arabia. A female robot has now more rights than every single female that lives in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabian women can't go out in public without a man who owns them, either their uncle, their brother, their father, their husband, to speak on their behalf. Saudi Arabian women cannot do anything but show their eyes. Just last year, Saudi Arabian women were given the right to drive a car for the first time. And in less than 5 minutes on stage, a robot now is more of a citizen than every single woman in Saudi Arabia. This is disgusting because it shows that men really are so oblivious to make such a diabolical blunder. It shows that not a single woman was consulted on how they would feel that a robot, which is made of machine parts and is property, is actually now more of a citizen than the real human beings, these women who are property. This is disgusting. We cannot let this happen. What will happen is these robots will look more like humans. They will say all of the things that they want us to say, and I guarantee you that there will be robots that people date and people marry and maybe have a kid with, because you can manufacture that in a robot. If we are going to make robots human, then we need to free real humans first. It just makes sense, guys. And this is kind of what I wanted to have an open table discussion, because we don't have the right answers, right? We're here in New Jersey. We can't say what's happening in Saudi Arabia. What is going to happen is this robot's going to receive more millions of dollars. They're going to continue to make the technology better. And robots are going to become more in our society. They're going to be helping us out. They're going to be taking orders from us. They're going to be working with us. They're going to be loving us. They're going to be having sex with us. That is the truth. Because there's people in the world that want to make that happen. They love robots. They want robots to be human. And they have the money to do so. And because they're human with their own agenda, nothing's going to stop them. So what we now have to do is, as a community, is understand, like, what are our morals? What are our non-negotiables when it comes to technology, when it comes to AI, when it comes to robotics, right? And that's just something that we wanted to share with you guys here, because that is a leave normal behind moment. And leave normal behind in 12, 15 years from now, we'll have enough power to lambaste this ridiculous decision.
Yeah.
Right now, guys, how we share that with you and developing the community around that can actually make an effect on something like that is why we started this show in the first place. So that people like you, who are intelligent, who are smart, who do have access, who do have resources, who do have that internal drive to leave normal behind, we can actually make effect on a global scale.
Right.
In this case, where women now, millions of women, have less rights than this one robot. This robot is not accompanied by a man as she's speaking. This robot is not covered from head to toe. This robot could technically drive, speak all by herself, walk around in public.
Right.
Just very fundamental human things that these women do not have access towards. And at what time do we as global citizens just realize that that's not okay?
Right. If I could just add, a couple of things to that. Rob really did sum it up really well, and I feel exactly the same way. And I just want to, maybe go off on like a little bit of a different track. But I think what this event really needs to open up our eyes to is we are living in history. History is both good and bad. There's people who lived through LGBT and the legalization of gay marriage, and people who have lived through Hitler. History is good and bad. And this is the history where a human no longer has the rights of being a human. They were stripped of their human abilities because men
decided to do so.
Just decided to do so, the way that their culture is. And it's sickening, and again, I'll go back to, you know, what you were saying about that's why it's important for us to talk about it now so we can actually really start putting it onto a bigger scale in the 10 to 12 years when it's really, really going to matter, because who knows what this is going to develop over the next coming years. And to be honest with you, I'm not surprised, because over the weekend they were talking about making red blood cells out of, you know, micro technology that will act just like red blood cells and make humans bionical. There will be humans walking around with arms, bionical, fully functioning arms, and that's just where it's going. You know, it's like hard to grasp your concept around it and even touch on it, but there's technology being developed right now that will allow you to connect to a cloud and essentially instantly download information. They are looking to make humans robots. So this does not surprise me that people who have the power to now make a robot human by giving it citizenship, it doesn't surprise me that they're doing it. It's in their culture, they have the power to do it. It sickens me to death, but I'm not surprised. And wake up, guys, we're living in history. One day, this will be written down in a history book that is taught to our kids in 2075 or 2100 of when the AI boom happened
and when Sophia was
given citizenship. This is history. Wake up. Wake up.
And one thing I wanted to add that you had said there is, I don't know if these people are trying to make people robots, us, but what it is they want to make us computers. And this has been in science fiction for decades. Mm-hmm. It's not that we're actually robots, it's that when you can upload a human brain into a computer chip, we become infinite. If you can create at the speed of thought as a computer, then we make our human potential infinite. And that's where technology is going for humans, and then robotics is a subset of making us computers.
All right, very true. Yeah. So I think this has been a really, really great show. I know as always, but we didn't put it down, we leave this show feeling positive. So I'm right now thinking of a personal growth tip off the top of my head. Rob, think of one, you're gonna share one too. And what I have for you is be so much yourself that people have no other obligation but to love you for who you are. Becoming the best version of yourself is the most beautiful process. And to see people try and fail and then try again, that is beautiful. It's beautiful to see people try and be successful, but to see someone fail and come back and keep trying over and over again, there is nothing you can do but say, I love that person for trying and I support them. So when the naysayers, and I want to actually touch on this, there's two types of losers that Gary Vee was talking about. I'm pretty sure it was Gary Vee. It was two losers. It's the bozo loser, the fat, smelly old guy who is a loser and tells you your idea is not great. But you know who's the other loser and who's more dangerous? It's that rich white guy who has millions of dollars and he calls you crazy for trying to be yourself. You turn to them and like Gary Vee says, fuck you, what are you gonna do about it? I'm gonna be me. And there's nothing people can say to you other than, all right, go be you. It's 100%, so be 100% you, don't let other people tell you differently, and love yourself more than anyone could ever love you. Rob, with that being said, what do you have for personal growth tips?
So I think I'm just gonna take two quotes that are in tangent, that complement what he's saying, and the first one is from The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. And he says, failure cannot overtake you if your will to succeed is strong enough. And we need to realize it's not failure, it's feedback. Mm-hmm. And if you have a company, if you're a person that's feedback driven, then failure doesn't even make sense, right? Because what would failure be like of us on this show? Is it that sometimes we have 10 people watching right now, 5 people, 20 people, 30? Is that failure? Mm-hmm. Or is failure us quitting and not doing the show? That's failure. Mm-hmm. Feedback is saying, awesome, we did this show today. What went well? What went wrong? How can we do better? What do we need to do right now? if every situation when failure approaches, you simply receive it as feedback and say, what went right, what went wrong, how can we do it better, what do we need to do right now? Then you'll never fail unless you quit. It's the same thing like being in the stock market. You don't lose your money until you pull out. If you're sticking in the game, you're not failing. You're just receiving feedback. So that's one that I really, really appreciated. And the last one is going off of like being yourself. Is this quote? I think it's by Albert Einstein, or it might be by Albert Einstein. But if it's not, it's from another genius. And it's, if you want something that you never had, you need to do things that you've never done. If you want a result that you've never had, you need to do things that you've never done. And you can turn that into a math equation because it makes sense. A plus B plus C equals D. Unless you add a new variable or change one of the variables, you're going to get D. You need to do something different. You need to change something, add something, in order to not get D. And it's just looking at your life objectively in that way. Because now you have to ask yourself, am I going to actually execute on that? Right? I know what I need to do. I know where I want to go. But am I actually going to make it happen? You know, so that's what I want to leave you guys with, is don't quit. Failure cannot overtake you if your will to succeed is strong enough. And if you want something that you never had, you need to do things that you've never done.
And that's a wrap for LNB TV, episode 32. We are so grateful that you guys stuck around with us for this week. We have a special episode for you next week. We're going to have Monica Adams coming on the set, where we'll be talking NLP, meditation, and how to tap deeper in that inner genius through deep breathing and meditation. So, like always,
this is LNB TV, episode 32, and we'll see you next Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Peace!